Alright, so this lesson today I'm going to talk about a little bit of things about the oboe, and as we go through this I am soaking the reeds, and we're going to see if all my reeds are created equal today or not. And maybe you have more than one reed, hopefully, and you may discover that not all your reeds play the same way either. I'll say as summer months come, it is a good idea to make sure that you are being diligent about putting cork grease on all of your corks. You don't have to smear it on every day, but you should put it on a regular basis. Why? Because as the temperature changes outside, especially as humidity rises and falls, especially here in Texas, it's going to rise, isn't it? It's hotter in here, and we have a lot of humidity in Texas. So just make sure you're keeping your cork grease and using it on a regular basis. That way, when you take your instrument apart, put it together, you're not having to force things that could cause damage to your instrument. A misconception, sometimes putting the top part and the bottom part together, is that you twist clear around. You don't. I want to make sure I'm kind of showing that. You wiggle twist, because you have not one but two bridge keys. Now I know this may be a review for some of you as you're watching this video, but it never hurts just to make sure you are reinforcing this and that they are going on the correct side as they align. Because if they are not lining up, but it looks like they are, but they're on the wrong part, it can keep keys open or keep keys from closing correctly. So we want to make sure they line up. If you're having to force anything on this part as you're going together, chances are that there's something that's needing adjusting or it's out of whack. See how that folded so nicely over there? And then on this side, how this went so nicely over that. You can see how they interlock. I'm trying to make sure it's big enough. I hope it's not getting blurry. It looks like it's fairly in focus from my end right now. I hope it is for you too. And then, of course, as you press the keys, we should not have any issues with things opening and closing. Hopefully you've got it together right. The bell is a different story depending on what style oboe you have. Some have the vent like this. Some have a key. It just depends. Right now we won't really go over that too much other than, again, if there's cork on it, like this had cork, make sure you don't forget about that when you're putting your instrument together. Now, got it all together. It's looking really good. I'm soaking the reeds. Now, I've got to tell you, most band directors will have everyone use the same kind of reed, which is a good idea. That way everybody's kind of similar, and the tone will be similar. That's important. When you're taking lessons, you may do some experimentation with reeds. And I got to say, some purchased reeds are really good. Some are really not good. And quite frankly, any double reed player after they've played for an extended amount of time is probably going to tell you that the very best thing is to eventually learn how to make your own double reeds, which that's a whole other thing in itself. And by the time you're doing that, you'll be taking from a specialist most likely. But here is an example of two different types of reeds. Now I can tell you straight off the bat, one of them has a lot more wrapping around it. That'd be this one than this one. And as a general rule of thumb, I must say that the more apparatus that is on a reed, the less likely it has room to vibrate. So, like with this one, it came this way. That doesn't really leave you a lot of room to play. Where on this one, although this one was a lot less money than this one has a lot less wrapping, but you know, this one actually is going to probably be more resonant. Let's try it. I ain't got nothing. And that's what I've had with these since I've tried this reed off and on. It looks like a reed. But does it sound like a reed? No, it sounds like nothing. Where on this one, soaked in the same thing. Let's see what we got here. Aha. So we have a sound on this one. Lo and behold. So this is a Jones reed. This one is a no-name brand reed, so keep that in mind when you buy reeds. Now, as you get better at reeds, you may be able to tweak it, adjust it, do something to them to make them magically work, and that's great. But in the meantime, your band director's not going to want you playing with your reeds during class. They want to play an instrument, so don't forget. Make sure you have more than one reed when you're at school. Because if something goes wrong with your reed, they're going to say, well, switch that reed out. And if you can't, they're going to be going, you need to have blah, blah, blah. And they mean it. Okay, I've got my sound. Now, I don't like where I have it placed. So let me place that again. Because as you put it in, wiggle, twist, make sure it's aligned so that your fingers are going to be where you want them on top. Wiggle, twist. Wiggle, twist. Just got to be careful not to touch the top. So once you touch into that reed, you have a high chance of breaking it. That's for sure. So just be careful with that. Remember to always get your embouchure set and take your time putting this instrument in your mouth, taking it out of your mouth. Otherwise, you're going to break your reed. You're going to chip a tooth. You're going to break a reed and chip a tooth. Who knows? Good. Got to make sure you've got your firm flatness, but you're not tight. You're not squeezing that shut. Now, there are so many crazy fingerings. I could play through so many things for you, but you have your books, all your method things. It's good sometimes to go through maybe some 5-note scales or something. I don't know. What do we want to do? I guess we could go through G, A, B, C, D, or low D. There's a big mystery with this instrument sometimes at the beginning stages, the high notes, the low notes. With this instrument, a lot of it has to do with fingering, that has to do with right here, this index finger, whether it's on this or what they call the half hole. This is my left hand, by the way. Hello. Remember, you're looking at me mirror image. So left hand on top, always. Right hand on bottom. That's a big confusion for students too at first with this instrument. Remember, like your recorder, you should have been playing it the same way with the left hand on the top, right hand on bottom. This is the same hand setup, left hand, right hand, as flute. Clarinet, left hand, right hand on bottom. Saxophone, left hand on top, right hand on bottom. So there's a reason for that. Now with your instrument though, not all the other instruments have this half hole. So that's important to know which position are we in and make sure you don't slip everybody else off when you're moving from here to here. It's just a little fine movement from here to here. Of course, you also have your octave key in the back. There are a lot of other moving mechanisms, of course, to this instrument, such as these keys, which you may or may not have gotten to depending on who's watching this video at what particular point in time. With your left hand, you will operate all of this as well. So that's important too. With the fingering chart, it shows you how to do that. With your right hand, you have, this is a side key is what they call that, a side key. You have a couple of keys in between your main keys that are also important to know where they're located because you will need those. And your pinky will operate these 3 keys. That's quite a workout just working that, isn't it? Figuring out, okay, where do all my hands go? That is definitely a big concern with this instrument. And, you know, that's one of the reasons that when you are selected to play this instrument, you may have been picked because you have the potential, or you have, your mind likes to work out puzzles, or you do have that coordination. They know that you're going to not be frustrated. Oh, there's a little tiny key there also. You're not going to be frustrated by all the different fingerings and alternate fingerings with this instrument. One note I remember, if I were to get the book out right now, one note I know in particular is a confusion to students a lot at the beginning stages is D, speaking up. That's one of the ones that the fingering is very similar, except for that thumb goes on the top one, and then it comes to the half hole to make the top D. Not the top D, the one that's within the staff on line 4. We're talking about treble clef instruments. This is a treble clef instrument. The low D is above the note middle C on the piano. These are considered low notes on this instrument. So when you go to D, that's the D right below the staff. The D that's above that, I was just talking about, is the one with the half hole. Make sure your D's do not sound the same. That goes for all the other notes, of course, that are octave as well. Happy practicing.